Hi there, I'm Anna Wild of the Birth Whisperer, where you discover the courage, calmness, and confidence that you need for giving birth. So today's question is, if you happen to be a gorgeous, curvy, plus-size mama, what are your chances of having a really good birth experience and feeling great about your body in the process? How can you be sure that you will be respected and honoured on your journey to motherhood? So I thought, who better to talk with about this subject than the vivacious and insightful Jen McClellan? If you're interested in avoiding the pitfalls and getting the best out of your pregnancy and birth, or if you just want to embrace your growing pregnant body more, or if you happen to not be plus size and you want to address your own prejudices, you will love today's chat. Jen McClellan is a writer and certified childbirth educator who advocates for plus size women. She provides positive information to empower healthy decision making during pregnancy, and within her blog she helps women navigate the world of plus size pregnancy and shares tips for embracing your body and laughing along with the adventures of motherhood. Her work has been featured in major publications like Yahoo Shine, Huffington Post, Everyday Feminism, and International Doula. She is a skilled patient advocate, professional speaker, wife, and mother to a charismatic 4-year-old. You will find her at plussizebirth.com. I am so excited to be talking with Jen today. Jen, welcome. I am so thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I wonder if we can go into the story of how plus size began. Can you take us on a journey?
I definitely can. I was married and, ready to start a family with my partner, and I got pregnant, and it was so exciting. And I went online, and then it wasn't as exciting. I read that I would develop all kinds of complications and that I would have a C-section. And I also read that I was a terrible person for wanting to become a mother as a fat woman. And I went from yay to, why? I mean, I've always been a bigger girl, but I've always, had all my blood work was great, and I tried to be active and healthy, and it was pretty devastating, actually, and it was really hard to find images of women who looked like me, larger women with bumps. Apparently on the internet, only thin Caucasian women get pregnant, so, there's a lot of problems with that there. So I really went out of my way to be as healthy as possible. I fell in love with water aerobics and ate a clean diet and had an OB, but then I hired a doula, and she said, "So Jen, you want to have a natural childbirth, but this is the hospital you've selected and this is the care provider. Let's talk. Let's have a little chat." And she really opened my eyes to the midwifery model of care, and I'll forever be thankful that she did that, because I went from, fine care. I was never mistreated because of my size, but I went from someone who gave me their 15 minutes to someone who gave me 45 to an hour, and someone who, for the first time in my life, ever really touched my body with compassion. And when I addressed all the concerns that I had read online, like I was going to have this big giant baby because I'm a big girl, she was like, "Well, that's what your hips are for. Of course you can birth a 10-pound baby." And I was like, "Really? Okay." And it really changed not only how I felt my birth outcome could be, but my entire relationship with my body and my body image and my love for my body. And here were these women, my doula and my midwife, who had more faith in my body than I did. And I started to believe them. And sure enough, I had a great birth. I gave birth in a hospital on my knees, which is pretty unheard of in the United States for women of any size. But I really not only found the right midwife, I found the right medical facility to give birth in, and I don't think we talk about that enough. It's not just the care provider, it's also where you're going to give birth that can make a big difference. So after I settled into motherhood, I don't think you ever do, but after I maybe started sleeping a bit, I gave birth in August, and I started in April my blog, and I wanted there to be another narrative. I wanted women of size throughout the world to know that just because you have a certain number on a scale doesn't mean that you have to have a certain outcome for your birth. And even if you do have a C-section, that's okay too. Your body grew a baby and it's pretty amazing. And let's talk about that and let's feel supported and let's learn to love our bodies because our kids are listening to these messages that we're sharing about our bodies. So I started 4 years ago almost, and I just thought I'd share a story or two. I had no idea, and it immediately blew up. So I started my website, Plus Size Birth, and became a certified childbirth educator, and now I'm a public speaker, and it's been the most incredible, beautiful journey, and knowing that I've made a difference in the lives of others has been the greatest gift, but I've received such a gift from everyone in my community as well. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Well, you've done really well explaining that you discovered this desert on the internet, really. There was nothing really positive and supportive. So I'm just so thrilled that your work is changing that, Jen. And you've mentioned several things that really made a difference in having a positive birth experience for you. I wonder if you can share your top 3 tips, your best ideas for having a healthy pregnancy and birth when you are plus size.
Absolutely. There isn't a lot of information. There was one other blogger out there, but I think as plus size women, for pregnancy, you're told to eat healthy, right? And you go and you look for information, but you want to think of dieting when you're, overweight, and that's all you've been told is that, oh, you need to diet when you're overweight, and so how do I restrict calories? And so when you are plus size and pregnant, the first tip I have, which is for any size and pregnant, is to eat healthy, but not diet. And I think that's the difference, is to really make healthy, clean choices, try to stay away from things that are in a bag or a box. I mean, just start there, increase the water intake. But unfortunately, a lot of people have, assumptions of how fat people eat. So we need to be careful of those biases because a lot of people do already eat clean and healthy. But for those who aren't, definitely making those healthy choices. And there's nothing wrong with finding a nutritionist. Nutritionists want to work with people of all sizes, and I think that there's a barrier there where there's this fear that they're going to make assumptions about me and my body, but they just really want to help you. So I really encourage women to also link up with a nutritionist. So that's one. 2 is to be physically active, which again is going to be a tip for women of all sizes. But especially for plus size women, birth is a marathon, as we know, regardless if you want medicated or unmedicated. But our bodies really need to remain physically active. It's not uncommon for women of size to lose weight during pregnancy. Not a lot, but a little. And I'm not saying that now's the time to focus on that. I'm just saying if we're eating clean and we're being physically active, then our bodies will change, and that's okay. But that can be a fear like, oh, I don't want to lose weight. Well, you're not going into this as a diet mentality. You're going into this as making healthy changes and choices, and always check with your care provider for anything that you're going to change with your physical activity. So that's number 2. And number 3, and I feel this is the most important that doesn't get talked about enough, and this is specifically for women of size, is to hire a size-friendly care provider. We know that there is a bias in the medical community around the world against fat people. And there have been studies that show that when a patient is shamed by their care provider, they are less likely to receive routine medical care and more likely to gain weight. So it's not helping. The shaming isn't helping anyone. It's actually doing a lot of harm. So finding a care provider that's going to practice compassionate, evidence-based care can make all the difference in the world. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of care providers telling women of size based on a certain BMI that, oh, you need to just have a C-section. We're going to just schedule your C-section on their first prenatal visit. And this is ridiculous. I mean, this is why part of the reason why we have such an astronomical C-section rate around the world is that we're not trusting women's bodies. Of course, there are increased risks with being plus size and pregnant. But if you don't, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to incur any of those risks. And if you don't, then you can definitely have a vaginal birth. It's not an automatic C-section. And that is something that I really try to empower women to be like, okay, I'm going to eat healthy, be physically active, and then I'm going to hire a team that is going to support me. And that team is a good care provider, a great facility or a home birth, and then a doula. I love doulas. Doulas are amazing support systems for not only women, but also their partners and families. So those are my 3 main tips.
That's great, Jen. And I really like the way you're talking about maximizing the support around yourself so that you're optimizing your chances. If you want to have a normal, natural birth, you're supporting yourself to do so.
Yeah, and even if you do have a C-section, then you still have that great support system to walk you through it and help you through the recovery. And so, yeah, I mean, that support system is key. And medical facilities are so dramatically different from miles apart with how they're going to treat people and their systems in place and whether or not they practice evidence-based medicine, or if they do, and do they have tubs for you to labor in? Because if they don't, that's maybe a sign that they aren't as supportive to more of a natural birth option for women of any size.
Yeah, right. So it's so important to ask some questions and do some research. And I know that on your website, plussizebirth.com, there are a lot of resources about how to find a provider that will really support you and all the things we're talking about.
I have a list of 15 questions people can ask when hiring a size-friendly provider, but I also want to do everything I can to link someone up with a size-friendly provider from around the world. I have quite a large Facebook following, so if someone is struggling and can't seem to find someone who is being supportive of them and they don't have maybe plus-size friends that have a care provider that they like, then message me, let me know your specific location, and I will post it on Facebook targeted to that area where you live around the world. And almost always I have women who will respond with, oh, I really love my care provider. Here's Dr. Smith's information. And of course you need to do your own due diligence and do your own research, but then you can have a list of a few people that you can go in and interview and find out if they are the right match for you. So I feel very strongly and will do whatever I can to try to help people link up, because I know that it can make all the difference. And as you know and talk about, the experience a woman has during pregnancy and birth sets the foundation for her journey as a mother. And that sets the foundation of her children's experiences in their lives as well. So we all are here because we want to help women, and we really want to have everyone have as positive as an outcome as they can, whatever that means, as long as it's positive and they feel supported.
Absolutely, Jen. I love how you say that. And what I want to focus on now is, I think, if we don't happen to be plus size, it's really like looking at the community around all women, but specifically plus size women, because you, as you've said, that there is really is a lack of understanding of what it actually is like going through pregnancy and birth as a plus size woman. And so I think it's really important for all of us who don't happen to be plus size to really examine our own response, because we're all wearing our own glasses. You know, we don't actually understand, know what it's like to go through something as someone else. So if you do happen to have a friend who's pregnant, who's plus size, and you're a family member or a friend or a client, how can you really examine and change your own prejudices and responses?
Absolutely. You know, I think that even hearing stories and reading stories of how women of size are treated during pregnancy can be really shocking. I do a talk to care providers where I share examples. For example, a woman of size had a miscarriage and she's in the ER, and a nurse says to her, you know, well, you didn't have any right getting pregnant in the first place, so it's a good thing you lost your baby. And this isn't made up. This is things that women are being told. As I used the example earlier, a lot of women, a huge percentage of the women I support, are told on their first prenatal visit that they need to have a C-section. So care providers assume that women's bodies are incapable of doing what maybe your body can, and maybe you've had a different experience. So I really want people to first examine that these prejudices are real and they're happening, and they can damage women for the rest of their lives and change how they feel about their bodies forever. And you have the power as a loved one or a doula or a care provider in that one moment in that woman's life to change how she feels about her body. And I feel that we need to be doing this for all pregnant women. And we need to stop making assumptions of what a woman's body can and can't do during pregnancy, but especially for women of size. Because I hear time and time again, oh, my family member said I would definitely have a C-section, or wait, why haven't you gotten gestational diabetes yet? Oh, it's just a matter of time now. And being, assumptions made of by care providers of, well, stop drinking your Coca-Cola every day when people may not be drinking Coca-Cola. So never assume what a woman's body is capable of doing. Never assume how active she is or what she eats and doesn't eat. Meet her where she's at, like you would for a woman of any size. And then take it a step beyond and be supportive. For women of size, it takes us a lot longer to show, to have that bump. And, more often than not, it looks a little more like a B than a D. And that can be really hard. That can be emotional because, I joke that when I was pregnant, I'd walk around the grocery store, rubbing my pregnant belly, and people thought I was hungry probably. And that's in my head, but it is also that my thinner friends, strangers touch their bellies. I never had a stranger touch my belly, and they were jealous of that, and I was jealous of them. So, really supporting one another. And if you have a plus size pregnant friend, be like, can I touch your butt? Give them those experiences that help them to fall in love with their body. Talk to them about maternity photos, because I feel like for a lot of plus size women, well, I don't look like stereotypically pregnant. Well, photographers are geniuses, and they will do everything to make you look like a mama goddess. So helping and encouraging and supporting, plus size women during pregnancy, but forever, and being there and being a good friend and support. It just comes down to basic human compassion and love. But we say a lot of things without realizing it. Even my own mother, hi mom, sorry. Even my own mom was like, as I'm nursing my baby, was like, oh my gosh, you're going to smother him because I have large breasts. And I hear this a lot. There's these assumptions made that because we're bigger or because there's something different, then we're going to end up hurting our children. And that's not what she meant, but it obviously has still stayed with me 4 years later. And I hear this from other women too. So no, I'm not going to smother my baby, but could you have maybe said that in another way? Like, hey, I found this other positioning is really helpful, or, I have a referral to this great IBCLC that might be able to support you with your breastfeeding journey. If you have concerns, that's okay. But there are numerous ways to address concerns that won't end up leaving someone feeling ashamed and insecure about their body.
Jen, I have found this discussion so moving and helpful on a personal level, and I know that so many people will find it very helpful too. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom in such a skillful and intelligent way. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for watching. If you've been inspired, please do share, make a comment, send this link to your friends, post on Facebook, and sign up for more birth wisdom and fantastic interviews with awesome birth superstars from around the world at thebirthwhisperer.com, because our future needs babies, mothers, and human beings who feel honoured and supported right from the start.